Hi, Rebecca. How are you?
It's so wonderful to finally meet face to
I
face
know,
after
I
exchanging
know.
some emails and
It,
texts.
it's so true. It's so true. So I really am so excited to have this conversation with you for so many reasons. I think first of all, it's just so nice to connect with another small business owner who's been affected by this pandemic in New York City. We're serving a lot of the same types of clients in terms of families, and we
Yeah,
just care so much about our work. So I just thought it would be really fun to have a conversation, and hopefully we can share our experiences, and also the way in which we're going about this is supportive of each other. So I think maybe modeling that for other people and giving us
absolutely.
all some hope in this really, really challenging time is kind of what this is all about.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I just thought we would start this off by sharing who each of us is and what we do. So if you want to start, that'd be awesome.
Sure,
Great.
sure. Well, I just want to piggyback on what you've said, and I know that we'll talk more about it. Um, but I do think now more than ever is a time to collaborate and help each other and work together in ways that one may not have thought of before. And so I really appreciate the opportunity to come together today with you. And I have a feeling a lot of good will come out of it. My name is Rebecca Schweiger, and I am the founder and owner of the Art Studio New York. The Art Studio New York is New York City's #1 rated art school. And our mission is to support the well-being, the self-empowerment, and self-expression of New Yorkers and really people all over the world through the healing power of art. So we offer over 100 art classes every week, and we work with children, teens, adults, and seniors. And we also have programs in addition to in our studio, which is on West 96th Street. We have dozens of programs in schools throughout New York. We host many, many corporate events and work with libraries and many other programs. And right now, 6 weeks ago, we quickly pivoted and brought all of our classes online, which we'll speak more about. And our focus then and now more than ever is to uplift and to offer community and connection and more fulfillment through creativity and self-expression.
That's amazing. I love all of that. It's so very fun. I've actually really enjoyed doing some art with my daughter over these past couple of weeks, and I find it to be such a nice and healthy outlet for all of us, especially during this time. So
Absolutely.
I love all of that. So Evolved, my name is Mary Miele, and Evolved Education is a company that serves families with children from pre-nursery through college. And we do tutoring and education consulting. We also serve schools, and we also work with teachers to help them with the practice of tutoring and consulting. So it's a very multidimensional company that does a lot within education. And yes, we've also been in New York for many, many, many years. And I was talking with Rebecca before the taping just about how much I love the city and how I can't really imagine doing work elsewhere. So it's been a really interesting time for Evolved. We had to pivot also and move everything that we do online for all of our families. And we've been talking with families and helping families throughout this pandemic, really, since it started. So I guess that's who we are.
Yeah.
And just
It
going
sounds,
down our kind of general list here. So I'd love to know just a little bit, Rebecca, from you, and then I'm happy to chime in too, but I just think it would be really interesting to hear what happened in the initial stages of the pandemic and sort of what your initial roadmap was as you learned that you wouldn't be going into your studios anymore. What was that like?
sure. Well, I think it happened very, very quickly. And I think that as an entrepreneur, how people maneuver crises and big changes um, in life and certainly in business has a great deal to do with what will then unfold. And so, as things unfolded in New York, I'll just start with February. February into early March, the conversation was, oh, it's just like the flu and everyone's going to get it anyway. And oh, yeah, everyone's talking about like what's going to happen in a few weeks, but everything's fine. And quickly it became, I think the city could close down within the next number of days. And so I remember it was, I think March 13th was a Thursday or a Friday. And within really an overnight, I woke up and I realized I need to like fully move our entire program online with 15 employees and other staff members and literally probably like 600 students a week and schools and everything. And so we being all of my employees and we within 72 hours fully shifted into an online business, like operating online business.
What was that like? Like, did you have to I mean, was there some training involved,
Absolutely.
and you had to get cameras and computer? What was
Everything.
that like? Oh my goodness.
I'm a bit of when I put my mind to something,
Mm-hmm.
there's really no stopping me. And I also felt the clock was ticking. So
Mm-hmm.
our goal was, it was a Thursday night, and our goal was to have everything up and running by Sunday. Because as a business, you know, like if I would have waited a week,
Yeah.
that is now going to impact all of our clientele and all of our staff and people who are teaching. And so we just wanted to, you know, get things up and running as quickly as possible. And so our first step was the technology. I would say actually it was like a big sandwich approach with lots of layers.
Mm-hmm.
So I found myself becoming like the head, like the captain of a ship, and just sort of saying, okay, like we need to do this. Okay, Dan, we need to get everything up and running, and this is how it needs to function. I know you know how to do that. Michelle, we need to send all of our instructors home with a supply of materials that will last at least 3 months. Christy, contact all of our students, tell them how this is going to work. And we really, it was a full-on team effort. I could have never done it alone. And the first step was really just getting really clear what, in a full detail, like what needs to happen. And then we constantly just checked in with each other, and we just got it done. I mean, obviously a lot happened after those 3 days, but it was like a finely tuned orchestra. We all just came together. We all knew what roles we were going to play. We all helped each other. And yes, we also, in the middle of the 3 days, I realized we need to have a full training because to teach online obviously is very different. And so a couple of people helped me create that. Sunday night, we had a 3-hour training. Monday morning, we hit the ground running. So in the whole thing, we actually only closed for 2 days. We closed for the weekend, just so that we could all fully focus. And then we just jumped in. And I think, I mean, I like to always think about, okay, well, what made it possible to do that so quickly? I think something that's like high on the list is being willing to take a risk. So getting that clarity, not waiting that long, and just going full speed ahead. So that willingness to take a risk, knowing I could have failed, it still could fail. Getting super focused, detail oriented, and then working with a team of people where everyone's fully aligned. And then really the other piece of it is, okay, how are we going to communicate this to over 1,000 clients, students, participants within 48 hours to really get them on board? And so it took a lot of perseverance and passion and commitment.
Yes.
And how about you? How did that unfold for you?
I was listening to you and I was thinking, I really have a different business than you do. And so in some ways I feel, because we are smaller and we have 4 part-time employees and then myself, and we have a bunch of contractors who teach with us. And so I had originally put out an email late February to everyone just saying, I'm not sure what's going to happen with this, but it's really going to be up to each individual in the company, whether they're comfortable continuing to go into homes to tutor. And I would really like you to have a conversation with your teacher to determine that. And then right around the second week of March, I actually had a live event at Marymount Manhattan College around the college process. And we decided to keep that event going live. It was on Monday, the 9th of March. And that environment was a little bit wary. Like there was some discussion around this being a big deal, but then some people felt it wasn't. We had the live event and then we also broadcasted it over Zoom. So some people decided just to attend that way. We kept a little bit of social distancing, but it really didn't feel like anyone was taking that very, very seriously at all. And I have 3 children. 2 of them were actually still in school at the time. One of them, there were talks about not being in school, but it was very abrupt that weekend. So it must have been the same weekend you're talking about.
Exactly
that
the same
14th,
weekend.
15th. Yeah.
Yep.
And so as soon as then the schools closed that Friday, and I put out a notice to our clients and to our teachers just saying, we are now going all virtual. This is what's happening. And, please contact your teacher for more instructions. I really think that the teachers that I work with are very, very creative and thoughtful. And I thought that weekend I really needed to come up with some courses to offer teachers to help them know how to tutor online, because I kept thinking about not just my staff, but I have a bunch of contracted teachers that I don't necessarily train.
Right.
So I sat down. I was actually sick that week, probably, with the virus initially. Then, so I was kind of out of commission for a couple of days. It was only that Thursday or Friday that I started to really power through on that project of teaching the teachers how to tutor online. So I had put that up as a digital course.
And that could be its own 6 months to 1 year process.
Exactly. Well,
piece you're sharing is like, oh, that would usually take 6 months. Oh, that would take 2 years.
Yes, right. And I think that's something that is really something that a lot of us who run businesses and a lot of people in the education world and in the healthcare world, I think can absolutely relate to, in that we are really used to going through processes that take time, and it's good to take the time to do it. Right. And so we are throwing things together in such a quick and really difficult way, because there's no precedence for any of this either. I mean, in teaching and learning, nobody knows what we are doing, and everyone's looking around going, is that working for you? Is that working for you? I don't know. Is that working for you? I mean, it's sort of like that, right? And so I think something that I bring to the table is that I'm not afraid to put out there what I'm learning about. I'm actually okay with it not being perfect. And I'm totally okay with the fact that this is the best I got right now, but talk to me tomorrow. It'll probably be even better.
Right. Yeah. Like this landscape is a complete disaster for a perfectionist. It's impossible to be perfect ever, especially right now where there's not time to really think something through. So you have to just feel it in your gut.
Yeah.
Take the risk, go all in.
Well, I think that's been really helpful for me in some ways, because in some ways I was really wanting to get some of that coursework out to teachers, and this really did push me. So I feel as though there are some positives to the whole pandemic in terms of my career and even the way the business is running and working right now. I am grateful for the push, because I feel like we've actually been able to do really important work, and I don't think that the industry is going to necessarily be exactly the same going out of this. Yeah. So I'm grateful for that. But I really have to say that when I put out this digital course, I was really trying to help out other tutors of ours really to do the process that we needed to do for our families. But what ended up happening was that I became helpful to a greater number of teachers and companies who are doing this. So that was a kind of unexpected bonus to just reacting quickly to what we were dealing with. And I think that's also something that hopefully will help other people feel more comfortable, right, with putting themselves out there.
Absolutely.
um, yeah, so I do feel like everyone kind of handled it as well as they could, they could have at the time. Um, so speaking of pivots, can you talk a little bit about how you feel like your company has pivoted, and I guess both successfully and maybe not, maybe some oops.
Yeah, sure,
Yeah.
sure. Well, and I like what you were just saying in terms of not only the pivots, the surprises.
Yes.
So one big life lesson I've been really embracing, I would say in the past year of my life. And so I was just talking about this with a friend last night, and I realized, oh, here's that lesson again.
Mm.
It is to be open to what life brings versus like clenching so hard in terms of like, this is what it has to be, like dropping the shoulds and really opening up to the coulds. And so really, it's very easy to intellectualize, like, yes, I'm not in charge of anything else except myself and the way that, my inner space and my inner world, if that. And um, and instead of thinking that I know how everything should look and how everything should be, and like a sense of control, I have chosen to be more open to what shows up. And so to really remove some of that control and make more space for, unknown possibilities. And so I was realizing last night, I mean, to the extreme, like, oh, wait, here that is again, which really means embracing uncertainty and like a full on embrace of the unknown. And with my business, one of the surprises that I have just been really thrilled by is the past year or two, or maybe even 3, I wanted to add an online leg of the Art Studio New York. And it really didn't happen for all sorts of reasons. And obviously this was like beyond a push. It really is the only option now.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're wanting to do, have business, do business, run a business, it's online or nothing. And so obviously we chose to go online. And in my head, I didn't stop within that 72-hour pivot. I didn't stop to realize, oh, wow, like we're talking about the whole world now. And this unique, strange, scary, chaotic, bizarre time where everyone in the world is in this similar position. And what that also means is like what my experience is not that different than probably millions and millions of people all over the world. They're home too. I mean, if for those who are lucky enough and blessed enough to have a roof over their head and food and really like the essentials. And so what we've been finding like very quickly is that suddenly we have this huge international interest. And so in the average, let's say we have a watercolor class every week. Instead of it being 15 New Yorkers, there's a handful of New Yorkers, and there are 2 women from Alaska, and there's someone from Malaysia, people from like East Coast to West Coast, North, South, and there's something really beautiful about it. There's something beautiful about, for me, or meaningful about like, not only are we in this together psychologically, but like we're sharing space. We're all saying like, life is crazy. I need 2 hours to just decompress and to find my center. And I'm choosing to share it with, these 10 or 15 people from all over the world. And so that has been like deeply meaningful to me. but that wasn't your initial question. Remind me of your initial
Well,
question.
it is. I mean, it really is, because it's talking just about pivots and sort of what are some of the things that you
Sure,
have successfully pivoted
sure,
versus not.
sure.
But I think it's really, really true that that is a pivot. I mean, a pivot is really going online, having the audience, the captive audience that you now have. And
Mhm.
it is a benefit to a lot of businesses right now. And I think if you're willing to put yourself online, connect with the world, you may at this point very well get attention because you have everyone at home and everyone is looking for something to do, looking for something to look at. And it is so powerful to be able to connect with people around your passion, which is your business. For me too. I mean, I've been really so blessed in that I found something that I can't get enough of in terms of my profession, but then I also get to do this for a living. And in the talks that I've done over the past couple of weeks, I've been able to engage with teachers nationwide and also families nationwide. I had families from the Midwest in my last webinar, and also teachers from the West Coast in the webinar I did before that. And that was really cool to hear actually their perspectives and not just hearing from teachers and people living in New York City. So it
Absolutely.
seems like the pivot actually has expanded your potential to improve the world through your business, which is
100%.
amazing.
And
Yeah.
that has really been my driver since day one. When I started my business in New York, I started it in my one-bedroom apartment in my bedroom. I made the bedroom the art studio. I stood on Broadway handing out flyers and holding balloons. And I was relentless in just connecting with as many people as possible, and started with one class of 5 students. And so to answer that question of what has worked, I think it's that same attitude of like, I feel such a deep sense of purpose that of course, like it's not even like I didn't have to stop and think about it. Well, of course, during this time when there's so much anxiety and fear and unknown, like of course I want to offer and serve in the way that I know how, and that in the unique way I'm able to. I think the other thing that has been and continues to be successful and has really come to the forefront is that a lot of people don't think of art as a necessity. It's more of a luxury, and it's, something fun to do on the side. Yes, I paint on Sundays. Oh, how nice. And one thing that the Art Studio New York focuses a lot on, and now more than ever, is that it's really not a luxury, it's a necessity, because really creativity and creative expression has been proven to reduce anxiety, reduce depression, decrease stress, increase a sense of well-being, increase the hormones that ultimately lead to happiness, increase a sense of self-esteem, focus, memory, and the list goes on and on. And ultimately, if you look at the health benefits of exercise, they're the same benefits, but you get to relax while you're doing it. There's no, like you get to relax and you don't break a
Yes.
sweat. So
Yes.
like for me, I'm like, whoa, I want to do that.
Yeah.
And so one thing that has been very successful in pivoting is being able to really support and help a lot of people. So for example, the other day I was speaking to a student who takes this class. We offer free classes as well as pay what you wish and paid classes. So she's a nurse in the ICU in the Midwest, and she shared that like, this is just a nightmare. Like it's beyond words that she can describe. And she said her one outlet is Sunday nights at 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. And she lives for those 2 hours. She knows that in her life, she can turn everything on off, turn her computer on, and follow this class and connect with people in the Art Studio New York community. And it fully recharges her. Someone else that I just spoke to the other day, her husband and daughter are doctors in the ER, and she's a psychiatrist. So like put that all together in a mixing bowl. And she said, it's so stressful.
Yeah.
And during the class, she said, Rebecca, I have to tell you, I completely forgot for the past hour that we're in the middle of a pandemic and I need to be like locked inside my house. She said, I just went somewhere else completely.
Oh.
And to offer that to people, I mean, there's so many examples, but also parents. We have a lot of classes for kids, and so we are just receiving endless calls and emails with such gratitude. Wow, like my child will not sit still for online school, but Thursdays from 4 to 5 p.m. I know that like I'm free, and that he is fully focused, and that like for the next 24 to 48 hours, his mood is going to be like above, like above happy and peaceful. And so the pivot has allowed really to help more people through an experience that is like unprecedented. And I keep describing it as like, I feel upside down, turned inside out, sideways, and suspended in air. And so to be able to give people an anchor and a sense of peace and a sense of social engagement, there's a real sense of community. And some of our students also have said, I was really skeptical. Online art classes, that makes no sense. And quickly they said, like, oh no, I'm sold. Like I'm the converted. And because it's live in real time, and because you could have 10 or 15 people or 5 people together, and we're in our homes and living rooms. I was teaching Sunday and I said, I swear, I feel like we were all just at this woman's house for, the full afternoon. And because that sense of warmth and connection is a big part of our ethos, it has fully carried over into our online classes. And so I live alone. And so many people keep asking me, are you lonely? Like, are you lonely? Are you lonely? Are you lonely? I'm like, I don't know. I feel so connected. And I don't feel lonely at all. I feel like every day I spend with 50 of my closest friends and then 50 new people that I'm meeting. And I think it is a big part of it is that ability to create a safe, socially connected community online. So like that's a huge pivot. That's really been terrific. I mean, there's been glitches, like, tech glitches. We have 9 or 10 online classrooms. People are going to the wrong room. Someone doesn't know how to connect. They have an old computer. They can hear, but they can't see. They can see, but they can't hear. But I have to say that within my team, and it really is just because it's a great group of people who are very committed. It's been smooth. I would say the other thing that I didn't even have time to think through is that unfortunately, some people do get in their head, I don't want to do X this way. Like I'm so used to coming in person, I don't want to do it online. And so I don't think it's not necessarily like a mistake on our part. I guess it's more of a question of, listen, when life is what it is, how can people pivot and be open to change? And I think that is it's hard for people. Change is hard, even when everything is working, smooth, the river is running smoothly and it's abundant with water. It's hard to change. And so when change is forced on you, not everybody wants to change with it.
I think that's very true. I really connected to a lot of what you were saying around the fact that it's so busy now for those of us who are choosing to connect, even though we can't do it necessarily the way we used to do it. If you've adapted to this mean or this way of connecting, I think it's very impossible to really feel alone. But my experience in my company has been different because we support kids in school. And so I knew right away, as soon as we were coming actually into the quarantine period in New York City, most of the private schools were actually on a spring break. And so there was some lull that I was expecting in our business. And thankfully, that's actually when I was also out of commission for a couple of days. And then when I came back and I started to develop the course, I just got in my mind this mantra of, I'm just going to show up. I don't know what's going to happen exactly with everything in my business. And things were changing so quickly in the educational space as well, in that we usually support kids going into the ACT and SAT, and that was canceled. Then we had kids taking the ELA and math exams. Those were canceled. So I had teachers out of work because of those things, and very normal. Obviously, you're not going to tutor your child if there's not a test coming up, right? And we did have some families just kind of say, I'm not sure what's going to happen. So right now, let's just hold off. We're not going to necessarily continue having tutoring. And we had other families who were like, listen, we definitely want to keep this going. I don't know how it's going to work. I don't know if my child's going to learn well on the computer. And so there was a lot of different types of experiences that those in my world were having around all of this. And so I wasn't really sure where we were going to go. I had a staff meeting in which I got everyone together and I just said, listen, I'm not sure what's going to happen, but what I can tell you is that you're going to keep your jobs. I'm going to do everything I can to do that. I'm going to keep seeing as many clients as I possibly can. You are too. We're going to just go in. And instead of sort of doing the outreach that we tend to do and trying to get leads, I mean, every single week leading up to this pandemic, we had leads coming in the double digits, and we were always dealing with new clients, and it was sort of like a very abundant situation. And all of a sudden we had no calls coming in,
Right.
and we were
phone went silencio.
like, what is happening? Yes. And it was, but some, to be expected, right? I think
Right.
everyone was dealing with the trauma of all of this. And so as a company though, of course I was worried, but I just had this feeling inside of me. I think you kind of mentioned it too, just saying like, I have some faith here that what I'm doing here is helpful. And I know I have an awesome team and I know what they're doing is helpful. I know we have clients who need us. I know we just need to show up. Mm-hmm. And so we had a meeting in which we just said, we're going to contact all of our clients. We're going to contact all of our contractors. We're just going to keep touching base. And if they need us, we're here. And if they don't, it's okay. Mm-hmm. And we kind of proceeded that way. And then I started to just do a ton of free content. So I produced a ton of free content where I was teaching teachers how to teach online, teaching teachers how to teach special education students. That's a huge need right now, especially. I was teaching parents just how to navigate some of this change early on. I'm having another webinar tonight where I'm talking about how to teach your child, because a lot of parents now are stepping in and they're confused as to what they really should be focusing on. Absolutely. And so I know I have the expertise, and my team and I working together have this expertise to share. And so I just have to believe that if we continue to put our value and sort of over deliver on what we're doing, that our clients will come to us as they can and as they need to. I also have had to open up additional revenue streams for us so that we can make sure we take care of everyone, because it's not all going to be about test prep tutoring. Thankfully, I kind of had that mindset coming in to this pandemic around business anyway. So I've always had a diversity of experiences happening in my business so that I wouldn't have to rely on one type of service or one test or whatever have you. So I've always had academic support, parenting support, school support, having teachers and training them. So these are all different ways that we already work. But I've had to think outside the box in terms of how to package that. And then there became this question of, well, we want to be able to give. And I think a lot of times teachers are in the profession of giving, so it feels very natural, but we also are a business and we don't want to necessarily shortchange our expertise in this.
You have to pay the rent, or
Exactly.
you have to buy groceries.
Exactly. So it's kind of like we were trying to be helpful to those who needed it, but then also continue to offer the caliber of services that we do. And so, everything that we do in our business is individualized. So we don't necessarily run classes. Everything is really determined by that child sitting in front of us. And so in some ways, this pandemic has been a very natural place for us to exist because we're used to dealing with families one at a time, right? And what this family is dealing with is going to be really different from what this family is dealing with. And so in the schools too, where schools are really institutions that are difficult, it's difficult for them to make moves. I think it's difficult for many schools to just implement what they know is going to work for their families because they're not used to moving so quickly. But I'm used to moving really quickly. As soon as I have an idea, I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. We're doing that, right?
I'm like Speedy Gonzalez.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
and it doesn't mean with everything, but once I'm clear, it's like, okay, move out of the way. Like don't try to stop me. But
I know the same way. And I think that
now speed was and is very critical.
I think that's part of being a successful entrepreneur, though, in a small business setting, because you absolutely just have to be responsive. Once you see that something better is around the corner, you've just got to run toward it, get it going as soon as possible. There really isn't time to lose. So it's definitely something I'm really comfortable with. And I've always really thrived in that way. And so when this is all happening, I'm just thinking to myself, okay, I'm just going to take whatever is in here, whatever I see everyone doing in my team, and I'm going to put it out there because hopefully it's helpful in two ways. One is that we're the resource, which we tend to be for our families and our customers and our schools and all the people that we serve anyway. And then the other thing is that we're showcasing our value to everyone in the space as well. And hopefully that will also translate. And it has, like, so, we were dry for 2 weeks. It was a little bit like, but it's not scary. Yeah, it's not now. So it's, things are picking up. We have a lot of interest in some programs, and the digital course that I wrote for online, how to tutor online, is going to help a lot of teachers learn how to do this. I'm adding additional content as I learn more skills in that area. And I'm going to make it a thing going forward because it's apparent that people also need to learn how to do this. It's a great income, and it's definitely helpful. So I feel like the pivoting for me has been really exciting in some ways. I'm excited to see what works, kind of what doesn't work. I feel really grateful that I have this opportunity to have this business so that I can help people and show up for them in the way that I have been. That's really been such a pleasure. Yeah.
Listening to you, and I'm just imagining other people listening to us, I recognize in you, and certainly in me, I'm very optimistic. Like, I'm the glass is full and the glass is half full. And yet I see that in you. And I think also it's just important for me to be real. So my glass is half full, and I've had my share of meltdowns, and there have been days where I'm like, I have felt like I'm on a roller coaster. There were a few days where I woke up, I felt like someone punched me in the stomach, and it was like I felt like I couldn't get up. Not literally I got up out of bed, but it was almost like I felt like the room was spinning. And so I think it's important that to fill in some of the spaces that, yes, I have had clarity. I'm very action oriented. And I guess one thing for me that is important is that there's going to be, no matter what, certainly in a worldwide pandemic crisis, it's almost to me a given, oh yeah, this is also going to be a roller coaster, and it's scary. And sometimes I'm like, I don't know, am I making the right decision? And maybe I should have done this differently. And is anyone going to be interested in this? And is it going to be what if this and what if that? I guess for me, I recognize, and this has a lot more to do with perhaps my own personal growth over the years, is feelings aren't facts.
Mm.
And so I welcome it all. I'm not going to chase away, the shadow. And I am not going to pretend that, oh, I'm so confident all the time, because no, like sometimes I'm concerned that I can't meet payroll,
Yeah.
or like when I didn't get accepted for the payroll protection plan, like that threw me for a total loop.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to feel it all, and I'm willing to, uh, there's a quote by Roosevelt, and he talks about the man in the arena.
Mhm.
And if you're familiar with Brene Brown, it's from her book, Daring Greatly, and where the title came in. And I don't know it word for word, but ultimately the quote is like, it doesn't matter what other people think. And it's not about, other people's view of you. And it's not about impressing everybody. It's about like, who do you want to be? And are you the man in the arena? The man in the arena is going to walk into the arena, know that they're going to fall, know that they'll get a bloody nose, know that they'll have their face in the dirt. In the best of times, they'll have the greatest successes. In the worst of times, they'll have horrific failures. But in the end of the day, you have a choice. Do you want to stand in the arena and like feel it all and be in all of it, the good, the bad, the messy, the wonderful, the question, the unknown? Or do you prefer to be the timid person on the side that like they just never stepped into the arena, period, and so they won't know the successes or the failures or the range in between? And so I think that, and I was sharing at the beginning about being a risk taker and action oriented, and I think what I'm hearing from you too is like you're willing to be the woman in the arena. And so yes, I had and have a gut instinct, but like I've had gut instincts that it didn't turn out the way I
No,
thought.
yeah, totally.
I've had like, oh my gosh, this is going to be awesome, and like it's the worst failure ever.
Mhm.
And then I've had times when I have like zero confidence in something and it turns out to be the most incredible success. So, there's no crystal ball. But I think for me, a big part of this is like, hey, I want to be the woman in the arena. I am not okay with looking back and saying like, I was too timid and afraid and I didn't even try. Like,
I love
I'm
that.
not willing to live like that. I don't want to regret. I'd rather know that I put all of myself in, failed miserably, but like I can hold my head up high, and at least I could ask myself, what did I learn from that? How can I grow from that? Versus like, I'm not going to do anything at all. I'm just going to sit here and like shiver. I don't want to be that person.
I love that. I really love that. And I think it's such a pleasure at this time too to be connected to people that you might not have that had the opportunity to do. Like even this conversation, I'm just like so filled up by everything that you just said. I feel so grateful that during the course of the last couple of weeks, I've had opportunities to connect with like-minded, strong, business-minded creatives who are just really on the same exact page as I am with regard to the desire to personally grow and to also help the world out. And I would just like to say a kind of funny story. Initially in my business, there was a person I was working with who was asking me about competitors. And I was in an office space and this man came down. It's the same concept. I'm switching the story a little, but the landlord came down and said to me, I have another tutoring company that wants to come into this space, but I would feel remiss not to ask you first if it was okay because you guys would be sharing a floor and I don't want you to feel uncomfortable. And I said, listen, I have to tell you something. You don't know me that well, but I walk my own walk. And I really am so happy to collaborate with anyone doing cool work.
Mm-hmm.
And I really am the biggest fan of any tutoring company that's doing awesome things. So feel free, place them in, we'll talk, we'll collaborate. And I've really enjoyed getting to know this person and her business. And it's Janie, her name is Janie, and she runs the Study Shack. And I've enjoyed working with her and her team and all the things that she does. And I just think it's so helpful to, walk that way, because it also puts a different type of spin on your process and your work, because you get up every day, at least I get up every day, and I'm kind of thinking to myself, I'm excited to figure out what I'm going to accomplish today and what I'm going to do with my business and how I'm going to serve the people that I serve and what I'm going to learn and how I'm going to teach others and how I'm going to empower others, just like people empower me, right? And so I think we can all perhaps take something from that story, that lesson. My business has only been helped by collaboration from others, and people who have entered my life have, for the most part, always been very, very ethical, very kind, very helpful, very supportive. So, it's just something else that I feel is good to keep in mind right now.
Absolutely. And it's interesting that you said that. I've always had the attitude, I mean, listen, in business, you're always going to have competitors. So it comes down to like, how do you want to engage in that?
Sure.
And again, it doesn't mean that every now and then I'm like, oh my God, this competitor, they're so great. I hope that like my business doesn't go to crap. Like they're going to steal all my people and blah, there's like that story.
Sure.
And I think one thing for me, especially that, I think for me, creativity is really a spiritual practice. Yes. Or a life practice. So it's not just like, this is a painting. I like the painting, but it's not just, oh, that's where it stops. I sort of feel like that's where it starts. It's like, okay, I have something beautiful that I think is beautiful to uplift me. But like, how am I going to allow what I learned in that process of making that into like, how am I making my day? How am I creating my day? When this all started 6 weeks ago, there's someone who I know who runs an art school on the Upper West Side. And we reached out to each other and we keep checking up on each other. Like, hey, how are you doing this week? Like, what's going on with you? And instead of being competitors, we're really like, what better support can you receive than someone who has a similar business? And how can we support each other? And so I liked what you said about your landlord speaking to, and as you were speaking, I pulled up this quote on my phone that I received a few days ago, because for me, it resonates in terms of like the whole landscape of now. Like, what story are you creating about your business, what's possible, what's not possible? And again, I don't want to dismiss the obvious, which is like, it's a luxury to ask that question. It means that all of my essential needs are met. I'm healthy. My loved ones are healthy. Like, I'm not asking this question if, God forbid, someone that I love is sick or I can't afford groceries. And like, to suggest that is sort of absurd. And for those that are fortunate enough to have some reflective space during this process, one thing that I've been asking myself or catching myself is like, when I start to go down like a path of, I don't know, dread, I sort of catch myself and realize like, oh, I'm creating that. Like, that's happening in here. And I could continue creating that, or I could really just like rewrite that story into something that at minimum will make me feel better. And most likely, if my spirits are lifted, then it's going to impact my team. It will impact my students. It will impact my family. It will impact my whole attitude. And so this quote really spoke to me. It says, last week, I found myself saying I was stressed. This week, I said I am under divine pressure because I'm birthing something great. Narrative shift.
Totally narrative shift. I love that.
I think
It's
that
really all about that narrative shift, though. I think that's a really
totally.
important skill to have right now, especially, but in
Oh
life
yeah.
in general, no question, no question. I think in my work, when I work with families who are dealing with their children struggling, or there's a really important process that we're working through with school placement, and these are all very stressful periods of one's life. And so to reframe it and to say to them, listen, this is an opportunity. I love telling parents that about New York City. I say, New York City is the best place to raise your kid. You have
Mm-hmm.
so many options. You have so
Mm-hmm.
many things that you could be doing here with your child, and it's all wonderful. And so you can reframe it, right? It could be awful, but it could also be amazing. So I think this is
And
sort of where, yeah, it's
and and
all
also
exactly what it is. Yeah.
it could be both.
Yeah.
And it maybe
That's
is
very
both.
true.
But
Mm-hmm.
where do I want to, like, I can't I can't change I can't change a lot of what really is awful in the world. Like, I just don't have that power.
Yep.
But what I do have power over is shifting what feels awful, or whatever story I'm telling myself, or whatever even is real, like in here, like inside my skin. And I think as an entrepreneur or as a business owner right now, like that is so huge, because Tony Robbins says something like, and it's not word for word, but he says, like, you have to be the guardian of your mind. Like, what are you letting in? Like, it's like, I want to eat healthy. Well, I also want to get good sleep, and I want to exercise, and like, I want to take care of myself. Am I taking care of this? And so I have become more careful. I'm not living in an illusion, but I have realized that, again, as long as I'm healthy and my needs, like my basic needs, are met, I do have the opportunity to make this an opportunity. I mean, that if I want to, if I choose to. And I think that anyone who spends hours and hours a day watching the news, I mean, just that experience is stressful. Like, you
Oh,
could even shut the volume off, and just seeing the expressions. And so there are different, I mean, we're talking about pivots. Like, I'm finding even daily, there are daily choices, creative choices I'm making. And so the past few days, I realized, like, yeah, I want to be the guardian of my mind. Like, I ask myself, if in a few years I look back, who do I want to be in this crisis? And so I want to look back and say, like, I'm really proud of the choices I made. I'm proud of how I served. I'm proud of how I picked myself up. Like, when I was having a crappy day and I was on the floor, like, rolled up in a ball or what have you.
right.
And so I think that
Okay.
that's uh,
My computer
a
card.
a big choice to make.
I'm back.
And
Yeah.
so and that's what I heard you saying, in terms of competition. Sure, you could say, no, that sounds, no, thank you. But instead you chose to welcome that, and now you're partnering and helping each other.
I love that. So I'm pivoting as we speak. See, that's what happens.
Good.
Like, it's like that
Working
working from home mama life that everyone is just loving. So I know, by the way, I know when you said about how the parents just love the class time, right? And they're like, this is amazing. I have 45 minutes in which I can go get something done. That is a gift beyond a gift, because it is really true in that, parents just are dealing with a tremendous amount of workload, and any business that's going to help that is just amazing. I was plugging this in. I wanted to respond to something you said, but just give me, oh, that's a light. Oh, well, I'll have to go dark. I think my flexibility also has come from me being a mother, in that when I had my children, I have 3 of them, so there's never really any control going on in my life. It's a total delusion, but I can organize things, and I can get tasks done, and I'm fairly efficient in those kinds of ways. But I think that what you said before, just about you having the sense, and really that, such a strong sense to think ahead and to be mindful that you're going to look back on this and you're going to wonder, what is it that you have done during this time? And I think as business owners, just to add to what you already said, which I totally agree with, but as business owners, we also have a responsibility not only to serve our clients, but to really continue to offer the work that we do in the business. And I really feel very strongly about that. And I think it's just a huge weight on our shoulders to carry a business. But at the end of the day, if more and more people feel empowered to understand that it is hard and it's scary, and I totally relate to the idea of, am I going to make payroll, and is this going to really work out, and how many more things can I cut here, kind of thing. But if we can survive this, and again, coming out of this in a strong way, we are able to support other people in their lives as well, which is a really huge responsibility, and it's really important. So I think, just to add to what you had said, that's another important additional thing to think about. And so I don't know, do we get to all of our talking points here, Rebecca, to share with everyone? I'm wondering if there was a last.
I would be curious, it's not a talking point, but I would be curious if someone were listening, including myself, if you had, advice to someone, like, let's say, it could be anyone, and they say, okay, well, I have a business, I'm running a business, or I just started a business, or I lost my job, or, I had to cut my entire work team in half, like, or things are okay, but like things are getting a little hairy. What advice, like actionable items, in terms of advice, do you think, based on your experience, would you give to, I guess anyone is too broad, maybe people who are business owners, or just one day might want to own a business, and they have to realize, like, guess what? This is part of it.
Yep, totally.
That illusion of like, I own a business, I'm the freest person in the world. Like,
just kidding. Yeah. You're never going to stop thinking about it. It's very much like having a child in some ways, but I do feel that there's a lot to say about that. I think, first of all, you have to be the kind of person who's not going to, I don't want to say need a lot, but I really do think if you're the kind of person that can do, work with the minimum, invest back and be happy investing back into the business, be okay to take the brunt financially when things don't work out. Having a sense of that is very important. And in addition, I think it's really helpful if you can try very hard to be as frugal and careful as possible with your business. So right now, for example, just really knowing what's happening with your money coming in and coming out, so that you can make decisions and you can be mindful of where things are going to go, and in reality, what you're going to be able to do and not do. So, and really empowering your staff. Something that I do with my staff is they have responsibilities. We don't do task kind of oriented stuff. It's more just, this is your wheelhouse. You do it how you do it. And I really actually am hiring you because I believe in your gifts and I believe in what you have to offer. And something similar is that we're a team, and I really do want to share. I don't keep things from them in terms of this is how this is all working. When we're encountering a problem like this, it's just a matter of sharing that with them. And so you have to be, I think, the kind of person that's okay living like that. And not everyone is, and that's really okay. But if you are, I really love living like that. And I love being the problem solver, and I love having the responsibility. I thrive on all of that.
Yeah.
So I know it's not for everyone, but that's some advice, right?
Yeah, I think that's great advice.
What would you say?
I think my first, advice for life is be the man or the woman in the arena. And like, it's like in the moment, a lot of us don't think about it. But in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, like your life will look much different if you were willing to be in the arena versus not. And like, what does that mean to you?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that, so that's just like an overview of living life. I think that having a growth mindset is critical always, but like running a business and especially now, you have to be a person who hungers to learn and grow and change a lot. And so, for example, which leads to my next thought, which is like, take 100% responsibility. Like, you're not in this alone. Like, if you're a victim of this, well, so is everybody else. So, like, that excuse won't work with your therapist. And
Yeah.
so, what can you do? What can you change? I mean, for example, with the Art Studio New York, we are offering less adult classes, but because of that, like we've changed other things, um, and sometimes we're finding that we're bumping into brick walls. Like you have to be flexible,
Yes.
and you have to be open to feedback. Um, Open to almost being like a maniac on a mission. Try everything, throw it up against the wall, see what sticks. Be willing to fail, I think is like so huge.
Huge. Huge.
Um,
Sometimes it takes me a while, though. I don't know if that's how you feel too, but it takes me a while sometimes to realize when I'm really coming up against that wall. Sometimes the universe has to hit me over the head like 4 different ways
oh
before,
yeah, with like a colossal
oh,
baseball bat. Oh yeah,
that
that's
really
like
isn't working. You're right. Shoot,
right.
I need to totally change that. And then also just knowing what you don't know, I think is very helpful. Like I've definitely leaned on my support of my husband is involved, and then I have my team. I have the coaches and people that really support me. And I usually say things like this sometimes. This is a common thing I'll say. I've taken it as far as I can possibly take it.
Right.
This is as far as my brain goes. I just actually don't know anymore or any other way to look at this. If you have something else to add, I would love to listen. And I think just having that kind of approach has always come back and provided me with success. And sometimes I've gone on with things in my business and in my life for far too long. And it's just really been like that, where I've been failing all the time. Everyone probably in my life has been looking at me going, why are you still doing that? What are you,
Right,
you know,
right.
and then finally I'm like, guys, I'm not doing that anymore. And they're like, oh, well, that's good that she finally, so
Well, it's funny because, and I think it's always the time for truth telling. And again, now,
totally.
in my opinion, it's like, okay, here I am in my arena. Like the people who I work with, I always tell them, I'm begging them to tell me the truth.
Yeah.
It's like, please, don't sugarcoat it.
No,
And we
yeah,
can joke around once in a while. And I'm like, gosh, the boss used to get special treatment. Like, no one's kissing up to me ever.
right.
Which I like. It's a joke, but like they know, and not everyone will give it, but like I thrive on the truth. Like, don't BS me.
Yes.
How can I know what I'm not seeing? Like, I don't know what I don't know, and if you don't tell me the truth, I'll continue to not know. And so something that with my team and just in general, and I think with business and entrepreneurship, like it's a bit of like, it's a thick skin, soft heart. So thick skin so that if someone gives you feedback that's honest, like you're not going to crumble,
Yes.
but don't become so hard that you become inhuman. But I think, like if you're willing to really hear the truth, that is a jewel. Like, and you can process that and you can change and grow based on the experience of people that are around you. That is like a diamond. Um, but there are two other things, well, I guess three, in terms of like advice I would have. Like, I think have a sense of humor. You've got to have a sense of humor. Like, yes, this is
Yep.
serious. And like, if you can't laugh at yourself and laugh at each other and laugh at like how colossally massive it is that like, oh, by the way, worldwide pandemic, it's like,
Yep.
I don't know, find time to laugh
I
because
love that. I love laughing. I have to tell you a really quick thing. I was giving the first webinar that I gave during the pandemic, the very first one, and I had over 100 people online, and it was going great. I'm talking, I'm talking, I'm talking. Boom, goes dark. I'm like, what happened? Oh my God. I go looking, my computer died because I didn't plug it in.
oh
Okay. But
no.
everybody didn't really know. Thank goodness. I
Okay.
plug it back in, I come back online. It's just as the point where we're switching to question and answer. And people were texting me going, I must have lost you. Like, I
Right.
guess the internet went out. Like, it was
Right.
so kind of comical.
Oh,
So
that's
I
so
just,
weird.
yeah, I get on and I go, hi, everyone, I'm back. And there were, I had lost about 25 people or something, but everyone kind of stuck around. And I just said, oh, good thing you guys didn't leave when the credits came on, like, good
Right.
job, that kind of thing. And I just kind of made a joke and then I moved on. And then, of course, afterwards, my husband and kids were asking, like, how did it go? And I said, well, I learned a really good lesson.
Right, right,
Always bring the computer charger. Anyway, it was
right.
very funny. Yeah. So you have to be able to
I
laugh
think
at yourself all the time. Don't
you
take
have
yourself so
to.
seriously. Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. It's like no one to be serious and no one to laugh
Sure.
and chill.
Yeah.
Um, I think so. There are two more things that are I really would say huge to me, and especially like right now, um, is like don't go it alone. And
Mhm.
so, for example, our speaking. I'm in a couple of other groups with business owners. I mean, it has been incredible. I have received excellent, excellent, excellent advice, excellent feedback. I am only one person. And I think that having your own business can at times feel very isolating anyway.
Yes.
Um, and so, especially right now, it can be especially isolating. And I'm finding that like I do not at all feel alone. I have a support system. People are asking me, I'm asking them questions. It's like, hey, instead of reinventing the wheel, let me ask now the 20 people that are in the same boat. Like, how are you handling X? Or which bank have you had the most success with for a loan? Or, what online platform do you like and why? Or like, just being able to pick up the phone and say, like, I can't take this anymore. Like today, I hit rock bottom, and someone can say, like, I've got your back. I was there 3 days ago. Like, you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
So I think that's huge. And then for me, and again, I think for everyone on the planet, but certainly as a business owner and just as a human being, I think the lesson or one of the lessons is and it's not easy for human beings, but like we are not in control, period, end of story.
Mm.
And surrendering to that, and I mean, I think it's a life practice of really realizing that actually what is real is uncertainty, and the idea that you're going to wake up every day and everything's going to be the same, and you can design every part of your life and the world and your employees and your clients and your bank account and your husband and your kids and the weather. It's like, I'm sorry, that is not what is. And so you had mentioned, this idea of sometimes you have to like be hit over the head with a baseball bat 17 times. I'm the same. I have a friend who says, like, Rebecca, you live big, and when you need to learn a lesson, the world gives you a big one.
Yeah. It's always like that for me. Always the biggest ones. Boom. Yeah.
Right. It's like,
Mhm.
and so I think that there is an opportunity to, again, like take full responsibility of what like what we can create. And it's like, take a deep breath and let go of what you can't and do your best and like be kind to yourself and realize that like we're all learning, we're in this together, but that like I have no clue what tomorrow will bring. You have no clue. And right now during coronavirus, we especially have no clue.
It's all the more apparent,
So,
right? Yes.
right. And can one embrace that part of reality? I think there's a lot of freedom in letting go. And I think that the practice of letting go now will help a person get through this difficult time. And I think it will free a person, in the future when all of this is over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think also it's just really a testament to how small businesses are really the lifeline for our communities and our world because of the nature of all that you were just talking about. In that, I feel like the people who are really endeavoring in this really challenging yet fulfilling way are put up against the opportunities to grow and to learn and to seek out how to do this well. And with that contemplation and with that daily grind and with all that we deal with, I think that we are also really privileged in that aspect of our development. And it is hopefully with this conversation and those who are listening, I think it's really important that we all know how wonderful and how important it is to have that happen for each of us, whether we're actually doing a business right now or not. But I definitely think for business owners right now, that pursuit is worth reflecting on and worth being really present for. So I really, you're so wise, Rebecca, and it's just so fun to hear you and your ideas. And I know that in leading up to this call, I was so grateful because you were sending me a whole bunch of really amazing podcasts and resources and quotes, and I was filled up by all of it. It was so very cool.
Well, I've been filled up by talking to you and by this strange opportunity to connect in a meaningful way. And I'm looking forward to speaking more and supporting each other now and I as time unfolds.
That's amazing. So I think if anyone's listening to this, if they want to get in touch with us, I'm very open to also just talking with other business owners and collaborating, helping out when I can. It's always good to tell, clients of mine about other businesses that I know do great work. And so I'm just kind of leaving that on the table there as we end the call.
And Mary, if people are listening and they want to learn more about your business, how can they find you online or?
Yeah, so online we're at evolveded.com, and that's evolveded.com. And how about you, Rebecca?
The Art Studio New York is at theartstudiony.com. And we have endless classes, again, for all ages, and we have a free class, and we're doing a lot of coordinating with all sorts of organizations. Of course, everyone's welcome. We're beginner friendly.
I love that. So exciting. Well, this was really amazing. We're going to sign off, and I'm going to just